You prepare for a podcast. Kids puking.
My alarm went off at 6:30, and I was like, I could probably use like just a few more minutes of sleep. So I'm going on my watch to like reset my alarm, and the sun's already coming up, and both the kids are laying in my king size bed, and I'm like, yeah, I think I could sleep. And then next thing I know, Cannon sneezes, and then I like open my eyes because he sneezed, and he's now on all fours throwing up into the bed. And so that was the beginning of the morning. Charlie likes her sleep, so she slept in a little bit. But as soon as she made her way to the kitchen, she too did like a little cough or sneeze or something and puked.
Huh?
So
Nice. That's awesome.
yeah. I'm assuming it was just like allergies.
Yeah.
Like they had like something in there, and they both have really, really short gag reflexes too. Like Cannon throws up all the time. Like that's nothing out of the ordinary.
It's like a cat.
Funny, dude.
We have a cat that pukes like 10 times a day.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
That's about like Cannon. If he eats too much, if he runs around too fast, like you show him something gross, like it doesn't matter. Like he's throwing up. And his pediatrician like a year ago was like doing like looking inside of his mouth, and they're like, wow, yeah, your uvula is like sitting on your tongue, like it is resting on your tongue. You have a really short gag reflex. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense now, because he pukes all the time.
Pukes all the time. Oh, that's too funny. I don't know why I think that is so damn funny when people just cannot. You could just show them. You can make a gag sound at them and they'll go throw up. And I just think it is the funniest damn thing. But yeah,
that was me for a long time. I've gotten a little bit better, but like there's still some things they'll get me. Like I would throw up a lot before I'd get on bulls when I was really young.
I
like
did that all the time. Getting like
last year.
horses.
Yeah, last year. No, I started clipping the ends off my mouthpiece because I'd go to put my mouthpiece in before I climbed over, and it would like just be I'd puke or like I'd start gagging or something. I'm like, okay, I gotta find something else to do here, and
yeah, trim that mouthpiece up, dog.
Yeah.
There's like so many directions I feel like this conversation could go, and I don't feel like it needs to go
and that's why I was
change
kind
the
of treading
subject.
lightly there. Yeah, I was treading lightly because
there's so many like so many signals are going off, and I'm like ding 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 ding.
Logan
I'm like, nope,
Logan's about to have a heyday.
Nope.
No, just
Calm
keep your
down.
mouth shut.
Yeah, that's called growth,
Stop.
Logan. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
We're getting there. I'm halfway. I'm halfway to
Things
center.
are happening.
We're
Almost
getting
an adult.
closer. Yeah,
Things are happening.
We're getting closer.
Crazy. Age 16 maturity at age 33.
Yeah.
Yo, who worked out yesterday? Did you guys get one in?
I did.
I
I've
Accountability
gotten one
call.
in every day this week.
Good for you guys.
Yes, sir.
Me too.
Woo.
Yeah.
After our podcast, you were talking about you did some of the in-season stuff, and I was like, ooh, that's a good idea. I don't have a ton of time today, and I don't really have time to go to the gym, and so I cranked out one of my in-seasons, and I just did it in the backyard, took my shoes off in the sunshine, freaking sweat my guts out for about 25 minutes, and it was awesome. I felt really, really good afterwards. Loved it. It was perfect.
Mm-hmm. I got going on mine. I tried to get onto it like right after the podcast, and or right after we recorded yesterday, while it was still kind of cool out. And by the time I got going, it was still like 91 degrees or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I had a little saving grace. So we had a pop-up thunderstorm, and it dropped the temperature immediately, like 10 degrees. And then it just like cooled the whole thing off. So I put the fan over, blow that cool air inside, and I was like, this is perfect. It could do this every day.
That's awesome. That worked out for you. It was like the workout heaven saying, Paul, you sweat your balls off for 8 days
It's your
straight.
time.
Here's day 9 will be cool for you. Well, boys, it's a balmy 50 degrees here, which
gosh.
yeah. You guys want to come visit? You can anytime if you want to come. Not sweat.
Yeah,
I'll take you up on that.
Yeah, for sure.
I saw Richie was home, like it was like beginning of last week or the week before or something.
The
Him
days
and
I
Paige
was
took the
gone.
boat out, and I got super jealous. I was like, okay, yeah, we've got to coordinate a fishing day.
Yeah, he called me. He's
You
like,
haven't
I'm
been up
home
there
for
yet,
3
have you,
days
Paul?
I don't think so.
I haven't.
No.
Yeah, you need to.
I've
You
never
go
been to
check it
Montana
out.
in my life, actually.
What?
You never been to Montana, period?
It's like the last
Oh.
frontier for me.
The last
It's
frontier.
like the last frontier
that in
in
California.
general.
Yeah. Well, it was before Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now
It's been interesting to
overpopulated with-
talk to a lot of the locals around here because obviously during COVID and everything, Californians were fleeing California at record rates, and they were just buying properties sight unseen for unreal amounts of money up through Montana, Wyoming, Colorado. It was insane. Well, this valley, the people that live here, they hate it. Like I've seen so many bumper stickers that's like, don't bring your California to my Montana, or like, go back to California, you commie, and stuff like that. Dude, it is so funny. I feel like we're in Texas or something again, but even better because we got mountains and grizzly bears. It's way tougher than Texas.
And it's
but
55.
Born in
people are,
California or something.
yeah, and it's beautiful and sunny and 55. Meg's here, and she stopped over. She's rodeoing up here, letting her horses turn out, which are, God, eating all the hay, all the grass. They're loving it. But she's like, I'm just so stoked to be outside and the sun's out and not just be drenched in sweat. She's like, I look outside at home and I just start sweating. I'm like, dude, yeah. That's why I moved. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it anymore. This guy, if you know champions sweat a lot. And so the Texas humidity was
That's
not
a t-shirt.
ideal.
That's the new t-shirt.
Champions sweat a lot.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's good. Did you know on the front? Champions sweat a lot on the back. Oh, that's funny.
That's
Talking about sweating a lot. Let's talk about keeping muscle on while losing weight. How the hell do we do that?
I think that's a hot topic.
It is a hot topic, and I'm actually really stoked to get into it because we're going to kind of break down the science of it, exactly how that is possible, how to do those things. And I think a lot of people listening are probably going to be a little shocked about what we find out. You want to kick it off, Paul?
Sure.
What do you think, like, the first thing to break down when we start talking about that?
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, probably first and foremost, like, there's a million. This is such like a broad. I mean, it's not broad, but there's so many highlights. Like, there's so many important parts of this. Like, I'm kind of like trying to wrap my mind around where do you need to actually begin to understand this? And I think probably understanding like what a calorie deficit is, how, like, just kind of defining those terms would probably be the best place. So I guess if we were to start with, like, what is, muscle mass? Like, why are we trying to preserve muscle mass? The more muscle you have, the more that's going to promote or relate to better strength, more power output, overall athletic performance. Like, those things are dependent on having muscle mass. And especially in like some of I don't know so much about bareback riders. I think those guys tend to kind of not mind getting a little jacked. But we see it a lot with bull riders for sure, is that they want to be, this lighter body weight with it, they're like not getting quote unquote overly bulky. But like there's a very important factor that your muscles play in just your overall health, let alone trying to do something as athletically demanding as getting on a bull. So even if you're wanting to kind of control your body weight, like, you still need to make sure that you have muscle mass. And then I think the second thing to kind of define here is, like, what is a calorie deficit? So a calorie deficit is a tool that we use to basically manage weight. You can be in a calorie maintenance. What we would call is like your calories in is equal to your calories out for the day. calorie surplus is where you are eating more food, you're getting more energy than what you're putting out throughout the day, which generally causes weight gain. It's great for building muscle, but you're also going to be putting on body fat during that time. And then the opposite of that would be the calorie deficit. So you're consuming less calories, you're getting less energy from food than what you're putting out throughout the day. And that results in weight loss. It results in fat loss. Generally, it also results in muscle loss. And so this is where this topic comes in, is how do we preserve the most amount of muscle possible during a calorie deficit when it tends to start to fade away?
It's tough, man. And you start thinking about other things as well, like your energy levels throughout a calorie deficit. You know, I mean, essentially you're taking away fuel. So if you're an athlete or a person that has a lot of things going on activity wise, let's just take the summer, for instance. A guy or girl says, you know, I feel like I'm too heavy. I need to cut weight going into, you know, say right now, I want to cut 10 pounds by August. So then I'll be, you know, feeling light for the rest of the summer or whatever. People don't think about the energy cost, the lack of energy that is going to come with that. Your performance is going to decrease most likely because you are in a calorie deficit, especially if you are doing this calorie deficit by yourself and not using a professional to help you, because that's the biggest key here, I think, is having a professional guide you through your calorie cut, or what being able to keep muscle on is tough. And so being able to line up your macros, get them adjusted, yes, they will be a deficit, but you need to adjust some things too. Biggest thing that Paul was talking about is like, you're going to burn fat, you're going to burn muscle too. So how do we prevent that burning muscle? And I think the first thing when we look at our macros is probably looking at our protein. Our protein intake is going to have to be a little bit higher, right? In order to, well, first of all, we need protein to help repair the muscles, maintain the muscles, all of the things. What do you guys usually recommend for athletes? And right now, I don't recommend calorie deficit, just period. But if it, like during this part of the season is what I'm talking about, what do you guys start with protein intake wise for your guys or girls that are wanting to maybe cut a little weight but still maintain muscle?
I typically
I
keep it a little
go
bit
with
higher. Sorry, Paul. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I typically go with a little bit higher.
No, I agree with you.
We want to have our protein intake somewhere, probably depending on the individual. You want to have your protein intake somewhere probably around 1 gram per pound of body weight. It maybe even a little bit more depending on where they're going. When you're in some sort of calorie deficit, the issue with a calorie deficit is that sometimes you're going to feel hungry. Protein intake, like you guys have been talking about, it's going to make you feel fuller longer. And so by making sure that we have plenty of protein, it's going to help you stay a little bit fuller. You're going to feel a little bit, you won't feel like you're starving while you're trying to lose weight. If you're going to go into some sort of calorie deficit, and typically starting that calorie deficit somewhere pretty low. You know, we wouldn't want to dive into, assuming you understand how many calories you're burning on a daily basis, you wouldn't want to dive into some sort of 1,000 calorie deficit. Typically speaking, it takes 3,500 calories in a deficit to lose 1 pound. So if we were to, max be maybe 500 under, I'm hesitant to go lower than that, depending on the situation with clients. Then it would take us about a give or take 1 week to lose 1 pound. So protein intake may be a little higher than average. Calories maybe 500 under, but again, it's a very individualized situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and on the individuality, like, going from 500, that would be, I would say that's probably what we would call average. I wouldn't call it aggressive, but it could be depending on the situation.
It's right between.
And I think setting a realistic goal, I think it is really important for like what your deficit needs to look like, because like Doug was saying, like during this time of year, you don't want to have a real aggressive deficit. Your energy is going to tank. Are you going to lose weight? Absolutely. Like you're going to get to your
We're already
weight,
naturally
and
in
you're
a
going to
cut
feel
right
like
now.
absolute dog poop. Yeah, you're going to feel horrible. And that is not the time to be heading into the middle of July, the busiest time of the rodeo season, feeling like crap. There's a whole host of bad things that can happen along with that. So I think setting realistic goals, if you need to manage your weight, and you are in this time of year, maybe you're not like a guy that's going full time, but you're still going more consistently than what you usually do throughout the year, but you're still struggling with weight management. Set up a way more realistic deficit, like a 200 calorie deficit.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to lose that weight near as fast, but you don't want to right now.
Definitely not right now. And one of the things that we see, and I've seen this just through experience with athletes, the first couple of years, I wasn't, we were just figuring things out. But what we saw was consistently guys are naturally losing weight over the summer run because of the stress levels, the travel, you're not able to maintain your nutrition unless you are so far ahead of planning that. And we're going to talk about kind of what you're talking about, creating that roadmap, which I think is so important, being able to see like, okay, this is how I'm cutting that down. These are the foods that are making that happen. And this is how I'm slowly introducing that. And so over time, I'm getting to where I want. I'm not doing this radical, I'm cutting 1,000 calories out a day. Like I'm going to lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks. Like that's not sustainable. That 1 pound a week that Logan's talking about, that's sustainable. That's what we want. So, but back to what we're saying, all the stress, everything like that. Guys and girls, you're actually losing weight. You're losing muscle already on the road. And what we see later towards the season, especially in rough stock events, steer wrestling, calf roping, anything that they're having to get off a horse or do rough stock, their bodies break down immensely quicker because muscle is decreased a ton. The protection is, in my eyes, has decreased a lot. Their strength has decreased, and their body's ability to recover because of the lack of all those things and the increase in stress, physically, mentally, all the things, emotionally, we end up with injuries. And we see guys fall out of the top 15 in a month and see guys make the top 15 in a month because you're either prepared or you're not. Be based off of, your physical abilities, your nutrition right here, and planning that out accordingly to your season. So cutting weight right now, if you're a competitive rodeo athlete, is not, you're already doing that. I would like much rather see you try and bulk during the summer. You won't. Like you won't be able to do it, but like make that the mindset. Like I got to get protein. I got to eat. I got to consistently be eating, and you still will maybe get hit your maintenance number. But if you are at a place, maybe you're not at a competitive place right now. You're someone that is wanting to be there in a year or two, and you're like, I need to lose some weight right now. I need to increase my strength, increase my power. You need to have a roadmap for that, and we talk about that with training all the time. But with your nutrition especially, you've got to figure out what is going to be an appropriate number for you to cut while still being able to maintain the energy and the recovery levels to train. And so adjusting your numbers, adjusting your protein, carbs, and fats is going to be the number one way to do that. We just talked about protein intake. Having that's going to be a little bit higher than everything else, depending on how much you're cutting out of your carbs and fats. Is there a certain ratio you guys usually use for your macronutrients when you're doing some kind of cut like this? Or are you looking at the individual and solely saying, okay, this is where this person is, this is their lifestyle, et cetera? Or do you guys have a number that I'm just saying, like maybe that we can give the listeners like, hey, roughly this is this much protein, this much, it's like for an average person, I would say 30% protein, 35, somewhere around there.
Yeah, and a calorie deficit, everybody's going to respond a little bit differently. So it's one of those things where you have to kind of test and see. So I do have like a standard. Like I'll usually, like if I'm setting somebody's macros for the first time, it's usually 1 pound or 1 gram per pound of body weight for protein, 40% carbs for a rodeo athlete, and then fill in the rest with dietary fats. What I would do from there is drop them on it. If we're going into a deficit, we'll just subtract 10% from the carbs and fats, and then either keep protein at that same number or increase it slightly. But you don't know how they're going to respond until you get into it a little bit. So usually there's like a 2-week period where we say like, okay, how are you feeling? What does your energy look like? What is the scale doing? And from there we can make a more individual prescription based on how their body's responding to those initial numbers.
That's really, really, really good. Logan, what do you, same thing?
Pretty much, pretty similar. I typically, depending on the person's goals and the time of year, I'm going to keep them somewhere probably closer to 30% fat. That's probably the only change. I mean, really, it's right there in the same ballpark. I always stress on the first call the importance of carbohydrates and why their carbohydrate numbers. Typically, if you set up if you're looking at your macros and you're like, okay, I'm going to, keep my protein at somewhere around 1 gram per pound of body weight. I'm going to do 40%. I'm going to do, say 40 or 45% carbohydrates, and then I'm going to, do 30% fats, just for example, somewhere around in there. You're going to look at that carb number, you're going to be like, oh my goodness, that's a lot of carbohydrates. And so I always make sure to explain the importance of carbohydrates, because they seem to get a bad rap. But especially as athletes, carbohydrates are that immediate source of energy, glycogen stored in the muscle and the liver. We need that for performance and for quality of life. You're just your energy. And so, the other thing that I would say, like, as I'm getting them set up with their macros, is that typically what we see with a lot of people is that they're really not even close to those numbers when they come in and they start with us. And so we always make sure that we're always gradually building them up. I wouldn't jump, none of us would jump anybody by, 80 grams of protein and 100 grams of carbs in a week. We're just talking about a lot of times one of the handiest things is tracking protein with the palm of your hand. Something the circumference and diameter of the palm of your hand is typically 25 grams of protein. So I'll just add, if that's a serving, I would just add a palm of protein a week. Hey, or a day. This week I just want you to focus on getting 1 more palm of protein this week. And if they can consistently do that, depending on how far they go, we might go a little bit more. But I think you, Paul, pretty much nailed it. That's typically right about this, exactly where I'm at.
Yeah, and when we talk about dietary fats as well, because I don't want people to think that, I said 40% carbs, that maybe not everybody agrees with that, that you throw the baby out with the bathwater as far as fats go. I never want to see somebody below 20% of their calories coming from fat. It's always going to be 20% or more. So, depending on what that protein intake needs to be, maybe 40% carbohydrates doesn't work, because that drops their fat too low. So like I said, the math has to work there.
Yes,
the dietary fats are insanely important for your overall health.
Insanely.
The hormone balance, a lot of fat,
especially for
vitamins.
Women.
So yes, especially for women, but men too. Brain health, your cognition. Like I was saying, these fat soluble vitamins, there's tons of vitamins that will not respond in your body
without,
do you not have a high enough fat intake. And so it's super, super important. Like I said, so don't just take my 40% number or whatever and throw it out, or, throw out the fats, because you still need to be at least 20% fat would be considered low fat, in my opinion. So you need to be above that. On the same note, if you're coming up with these numbers by yourself, which I don't recommend, unless you have some extensive, background in it or some education in it, is that the fat and carbohydrate balance makes absolutely zero impact on your fat loss during a deficit. The only one that needs to truly remain the same is your protein intake. Fats and carbs can kind of be whatever is going to be comfortable for you. You could have a higher fat, you could have higher carbs. So if you're trying to initiate some deficit, don't think you have to be low carb to lose weight. Don't think you have to be low fat to lose weight, because what the study shows, they don't matter. As long as you are in a calorie deficit, that balance between carbohydrates and fat can be whatever's most comfortable for you. We tend to go higher carbohydrates with athletes just because of the quick energy source that it gives.
Yeah, it is the energy source. And so for athletes, that's why like you're saying, we say those carbs are important. That's what we have to maintain their energy. But when it comes to losing the actual weight, like Paul was saying, just finding out what your individual, likings are, like what works for you. What are the numbers that you feel best at and that you're still seeing results at? And that's the best thing we can do. last thing on nutrition part is we are not registered dietitians. So we are just giving you our best suggestions here. If you are someone that is needing a dietitian, we definitely have suggestions for you. So shoot us a DM, shoot us a message, and we would be happy to refer you to a dietitian. America, Canada, anywhere, we have dietitian friends everywhere that are outstanding. So if you really do need some help there, we can get you set up. I just wanted to make that very, very clear that our specialty is not being dietitians. We are not specialists at that. What we are specialists at is resistance training and conditioning. Go ahead, Logan.
Absolutely. I don't want to. That was such a smooth segue that I hate to go backwards. But I just had one tiny point about I had one little thing about a lot of times this time of year I have clients that are really struggling to get their food intake in, just in general, whether they're rodeoing or not. They're working outside, they're hot, they're sweaty, whatever. And so just 2 tips that I gave a client this week that might be helpful for other people out there. And maybe you guys have 1 or 2 quick things. I don't want to take up a ton of time, but breakfast is extremely important. You're not hot and sweaty when you wake up and you get up. Getting a good amount of protein at breakfast can be helpful for you if you're struggling to reach your protein goals. The second thing that I've read a couple studies on and have started implementing a little bit myself is a small protein shake before bed. And so just keeping my amino acids kind of in my body while I'm sleeping. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not entering this big fasted period. And those are 2 things that have helped me maintain in the summertime my protein intake, and maybe could potentially help you if you're listening and struggling with getting that in.
Cool. One other thing about breakfast, if you're going to get enough protein, stop fucking eating breakfast foods. I'm going to break that right now. Breakfast foods, eggs, bacon, dude, you ain't getting enough protein. I'm sorry. You're just not. 5 grams of protein per egg. I need like 40 grams of protein a meal. I'm not eating 8 eggs. Like, there's no damn way.
Yeah.
So I've been making dinner for breakfast. I don't care. I'm having steak and sweet potatoes and chicken breast and like rice, and it's awesome. And I can feel a huge difference in how I feel throughout the day and just getting that solid start. And I also halfway through the day, when I'm kind of adding up what I've eaten so far, I'm like, oh dude, you're so much further ahead in your protein than you would have been, a month ago when you weren't doing this. So try that out, y'all. That has worked for me. It's also very easy prep wise. I'm just making a bunch of dinner and extra dinner for each day, and then just throwing it on a plate and heating it up every morning. Like, it's easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
There's no such thing as breakfast foods. Like that was
all it
that was
means
a
is just
marketing
breaking
thing
the
that started
fast,
back
right?
in the early, yeah.
That's what breakfast is. So whenever that is for you,
breakfast foods like cereal, eggs, bacon, like all of that kind of came about as like how can we move this stuff off the shelf easier? Yeah.
I hate that.
Before we move from nutrition, we definitely need to talk about exercise, but I do want to stress the importance of micronutrients as well. Like we were talking, I was mentioned earlier, the vitamins, fat soluble vitamins. Vitamin D is one of those. That's going to be one of the micronutrients that's going to be super important just for overall health in general. But calcium, magnesium, you pretty much, you name the micronutrient, like you're going to need it during this time as far as a calorie deficit goes. For the part of the role that they will play in recovery and getting enough sleep at night and making sure that your body is repairing itself. Because when we do talk about strength training in a minute, we'll talk about breaking down muscle, and we need to make sure that we are getting adequate rest so that we can repair muscle and preserve it, which is doubly more taxing on your body during a calorie deficit. So
absolutely. So that means that when it comes to training, I would say 90% of the people that I talk to or I've worked with in the past, we start talking about a deficit or a cut, and they think that they need to in turn go harder to make you burn even more than you already are, right? They're thinking that they're going to get more results quicker, right? Which is, again, the opposite of what's going to happen. You're going to hit a point where your body can no longer recover or put out the energy for work. So you'll be in a worse off spot than you were before. So when you're setting up a program for, maintaining muscle while trying to cut weight, it's very, very crucial that you get the reps right, the sets right, and the rest time in between those things right. So many people are just so worried about going fast and getting things done and making yourself sweat to death instead of actually channeling the energy systems that they want to target in their training. And whether you're an athlete or just an everyday person that wants to be, you know, badass at what you're doing, whether that's hiking or hunting or fishing or chasing the kids around the yard, you have got to set up the workouts to complement that. And the way that we do that is strictly based off of workout duration and workout intensity is how we control those energy systems. So, you know, as a damn, I just lost my train of thought so hard right there.
Well, we have to send the right signal to the body, right? I mean, as we're training, we have to send the right signal to hold on to muscle. Hey, we are going to need this muscle to accomplish the tasks that we have ahead, even though I'm in this calorie deficit. And what you do when you maybe skip rest, or you are going to go, you've heard lightweight and high reps and very little rest, and that's how we're going to get toned, which is a whole nother podcast topic. But what we do then is we just send the signal for like muscle endurance, and we're essentially just doing cardio with weights, that's totally fine. It's an appropriate form of high intensity interval training, total appropriate form for something. Not if you're wanting to maintain strength, you're wanting to maintain muscle during a calorie deficit, where we really need to pay attention to those rest times and the sets and the reps, the other variables in your training session, like Doug was saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've definitely had clients before that think they want to increase their cardiovascular or the amount of cardiovascular exercise that they're doing or the HIIT training during their calorie deficit. To kind of meet in the middle there, what we're always going to do is before we start the deficit, we're going to increase your work capacity by introducing those things beforehand. Like you're going to either eat in a surplus or at maintenance, increase your work capacity. We're going to do maybe a HIIT workout 1 day a week. Maybe cardiovascular training 2 days a week, something like that, where we're getting you used to, we're driving somewhat of an adaptation towards that. But we're not burning you out on it. And especially not when we're now restricting energy in a deficit and asking more demanding, a more demanding form of exercise from your body. Will you lose a lot more weight a lot faster? Possibly. Like, will you feel awful? Definitely. So like you won't maintain that muscle like we're talking.
No, the muscle will be gone.
You'll lose all the weight you want to, but it will be muscle is what's going.
Absolutely, man. That was a banger right there. That is super, super important for anybody listening. Yeah, banger, dude. Mic drop. All right, we're out. See you guys later. But no, yeah, asking, there's so many things that when you're going through all that, I'm like, just for the average person, that's so much to have to figure out. Like, just go hire a coach, guys. Hire someone that is trustworthy, that is getting the results that you want, and just take that puzzle out. Like, get it solved. Stop wasting your time spinning your wheels by yourself, and find someone that can help you. That's the whole point of having a coach. I was thinking about that the other day. I was thinking about, sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but like elite athletes that hire us that definitely don't need us, like have been to the NFR many times before we ever worked with them, have won a world title before we ever worked with them. Why the fuck do they hire us now? And I think that, I know that one of the reasons is it just takes the guesswork out of the system for them. They don't have to worry about what they're doing when they get there, when they're getting to the gym, when they're on the road, when they're at the rodeo. Dude, that's the whole reason that you invest in something like that, is to make your life easier. So when it comes to anything like that in life, guys, if you're not like a super professional, you don't have the time to become one, find someone who is and use their service and become a professional and expert at that through that. It's just pays off doubly, I think, and I've had guys that have been training with me for years and years and years now and are still here. And it's just because they don't have to think about anything. They know that what we're doing works, and they're like, if I want to continue to do this, I don't make things difficult or do new things. I just keep doing the same things that are getting me there and doing better. So I think that was it's kind of a cool thing to think about. And if you're a young athlete,
it's a lot like mechanic work. You know, as guys, we'll probably, something will go wrong on the car and you're like, I can fix that. So you watch a couple of YouTube videos, you go rent the tools if you don't have them, you buy the parts you need. You're like, yeah, I got this. You get it halfway torn apart and you're like, this is a little bit more difficult than I thought.
I'm in over
Your
my
30-minute project turned into 6 hours, and you're like, yeah. I think I'm just going to put this thing back together and take it to the mechanic. It's the same way with health and fitness. Everybody thinks that they can do it on their own, which they absolutely can. If you want to invest the time and you want to invest the energy into learning, like, sure, you can learn enough about how to do this. What hiring a coach does is it's like taking your car to the mechanic. You don't have to spend that time. You don't have to waste all that energy trying to figure it out. There's somebody else that already knows what you're going to need based off of your situation and can put the car back together for you.
Absolutely. The other analogy that I was thinking of is, how many bull riders do you know that need a new bull rope and they learn how to braid one? No, what do? They call Beastmaster. They get it shipped to them in like 2 days. You know what I'm saying? Like elite athletes, they why would I learn how to braid a bull rope? Now, if that's your passion and you love cool. But I'm saying 90% of athletes are not going to learn how to. They're going to call an elite company in the business like Beastmaster, and they're going to get it on their doorstep faster than Amazon could get it there. You know, like it just doesn't make sense to waste time with things you don't have to.
No. You want your bull rope in 2 days, or you want it in 6 months?
Yeah, for sure.
If you try to make one yourself, it's going to take you 6 months to figure it out.
Yeah.
Time, energy, all equal money. So every time that I'm wasting time or wasting energy, I'm like, I'm just pissing money away. So how can I make this bleed less and get more out of it, right? And a lot of times that's outsourcing and hiring professionals that I research, trust, and then gain the knowledge from them. And then again, 2 months later, I'm on the roll, or else I could have been sitting there trying to learn it by myself. In 2 months, I'd be sitting there in the same exact spot going, what the fuck? Something else to wrap this all up, guys. I want to talk about monitoring your progress and making adjustments to your plans, right? Something that gets overlooked a lot is your progress and taking that time every week to take a picture of yourself. You know, if you are looking for aesthetic goals, you're looking for things like that, taking that weekly picture of yourself seems dumb. And at first you won't see the instant aesthetic results, but 4, 5, 6 weeks in, all of a sudden you start seeing changes. And those changes that you see every week when you snap that picture fire you up and keep you going. I was talking with a client yesterday, and we've been training together for 3 years, and it's been a long journey of someone she'd never trained before. And now we're at a place where we're back squatting, we're front squatting, we're deadlifting, we're doing all the things in the gym. And she's fired up about it, wants to get strong, wants to gain muscle, wants to get a little bit, not bigger, but like, you know what I mean? Like actual gain muscle. And we were talking yesterday, and she was like, I'm loving this new plan. I'm a little sore these about 2 days after from the leg day. I'm like, oh yeah, that's just the delayed onset, the muscle soreness. It happens to me every time. Second day after a leg day, I'm like roasted. We were just chatting about that, and I was saying, that's a good sign that we're hitting a stimulus that we haven't hit before. And also in that sense, we should see some really good changes in about 8 weeks. And she was like, oh, so like we gotta this can be a minute before I really see the changes. And I throw out a long number always, just because they probably will see changes in about 4 to 5. But when they see the changes, it's like, oh damn, way faster than 8. But also I've seen it take 8 weeks for it to need to, like, it took that long to happen. So that was her thing. How can I keep myself fired up about it? I was like, take a picture every week, every Monday morning, get up right when you get up, no water, no nothing. Boom. So you don't have to share it with anybody. You keep it for yourself. At the end, if you're like, oh man, I want to share this because look at week 1 and look at week 8 or whatever, cool. By all means, go for it. But in that was an instant thing for her where she was like, oh yeah, I know that I'm gonna be able to see it that way. And I know that I'm going to be able to do that every week. It's not a hard thing to do. I just have to remember to do it. So do the little things, guys, when it comes to tracking, and maybe you're someone that's a little more, OCD is not the right word, but meticulous, someone that needs to have, maybe measurements of your body. Go get an in body, like an actual scan of what's going on with your body composition. All of those things can be good biomarkers, good, stops on the roadmap, if you will, of being able to see where you are, see where you're starting, and then go towards your goals and adjust things from there. But make sure you guys are tracking your progress, because that is one thing that is very simple to do and is overlooked a lot, and I think is probably one of the main reasons people quit is you aren't being so strategic about tracking that. And after 2.5 weeks, you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, I haven't fucking changed at all. Like, no, this ain't working. I'm done with this. This is stupid. And all you need to do is go another half a week and you would have seen some change. But if you would have been taking those pictures, guaranteed you would have seen some change, right? So track your progress, y'all. Make it easy for yourself. Make it easy for it just makes it easy for everything. It keeps you accountable and it keeps you fired up. And that's the biggest thing we have to do is we got to stay excited about this shit, or else we're not going to do it, And what's more exciting than seeing what you're doing start working? Not much. Not to me, at least. That gets me so amped. I love it. Even still now, man, like I'll go through phases of not, busy, not working out as well. You can see your body doesn't look exactly the same as it did. And then you get back to it for a couple of weeks and you're like hammering it, but smart. And I got up this morning, I looked in the mirror, I was like, damn, we're back. Hey, what's up, dude?
Let's go.
So yeah, dude, it fires me up still. I love it. That's one of my favorite parts about exercise. You do exercise long enough, you can see that every day, that change, that, you get that pump after a workout, whether it's your legs, your arms, whatever. You look different. You look better. It's good. It's good for you. It's good for the mental capacity. It's good for everything. Your confidence, whether it's just personal things or sport. A strong guy or girl is going to be a confident guy or girl, and they're going to take all the weak guys and girls' money.
That's right.
You guys got anything else to wrap this up?
I would say, just on the progress, the easiest thing that almost everybody has available is the scale, and I would caution people against using only a scale for progress. Use what Doug had mentioned: do a scale and progress pictures, or a scale and tape measurements, because you want two different viewpoints. That scale is going to fluctuate 7 pounds throughout the day, every single day, or it's different for everybody, but 3 to 10 pounds basically is on average what that can do, just through the foods that you're eating, the water that you're retaining, how much you sweat throughout the day. Like, all of those things are going to influence the scale. The tape measurements aren't going to lie. They're going to either steadily increase or steadily decrease. The body picture, or the progress pictures, again, if you're taking them once a week or even every day, if you want to, over the course of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, there will be consistent change. So use both. And then if you are in a calorie deficit and you're setting these numbers on your own, the atypical thing that might happen that a scale can save you from this, I've only ran into this one time in my life. I changed the stimulus of my workouts and I started losing weight when I didn't want to. So then I knew that I had to adjust my calories up, because I was unintentionally in too deep of a deficit at that point. That doesn't happen all the time, but it's a good way to just keep your finger on the pulse of, like, am I losing weight when I don't want to, or am I gaining weight when I don't want to? But definitely use more than one form of progress tracking.
Yeah, tracking trends, I think, is the best thing you can do with a scale. So it's like the number, it's important. It probably isn't dead on, because most scales I found are not that accurate, but it will track a trend. If you see your weight going down, okay, and you don't want it to go down, like you're talking about, I need to change something. Vice versa, my weight is going up and I'm trying to cut. Something's going on. I need to adjust some things. So using that to track trends is a great idea. Logan, you got anything else to wrap it up, buddy?
No, I think you guys absolutely crushed it. Just make sure you're, if you are using the scale, just make sure, like you guys have alluded to already, you're stepping on it at the same time. And don't be stepping on a scale at the gym one day and then you're one at home the next day, different hours of the day. I can go eat Mexican food tonight, and tomorrow when I step on the scale, I'll be 6 pounds heavier than I was this morning. So the sodium, I'm gonna just retain all that water. So just use it, like you guys said, use it sparingly or don't use it at all. Take 30 days and say, hey, no scale for 30 days. I'm just going to take pictures. I'm just going to focus on how I feel, and come back, and you'll be amazed at how much the changes you'll see in the mirror and in those pictures. And the scale might not have changed that much. It's not always about weight loss as much as it's about body recomposition. So happy hunting.
Heck yeah, dude. Heck yeah. Guys, till next time, We'll catch you later.